Hey, what's going on, you guys? Jay here, and welcome back to the channel. So if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment on the way out, and hit the notifications bell if you'd like to stay informed with all of the different content that we do provide here on the channel. Definitely getting back into the swing of things, and I want to thank our new Patreon members that have decided to jump in, support the channel, and access our private Discord group. We've got a few decent alpha calls out there at the moment, so there are options available. Do make sure if you have signed up to the Patreon that you link your Discord so it adds you in to our private group. So things are looking pretty explosive in Japan, and there's definitely some renewed momentum out there. So if you're an XRP holder like myself, someone who's very interested in the XRPL technology, then this is definitely going to be a video for you. Now, we've done a lot of content on XRP previously, and it's very focused on what's going on in Japan. They are big on XRP out in Japan, and specifically one bank being SBI Remit. Before we get onto that, I really want to set the stage here. And we've got some positive movements in the traditional markets out in Japan. And what we can actually see is the equity index, which is Nikkei, topped 49,000 points for the first time on record. And this is taking it to a year-to-date gain of 25%. And this is very specific because when there's euphoria in any market out there, this means people have got extra capital to spend. So the likelihood is people in Japan are going to be wanting to invest into possibly some more volatile assets where there are some high gain situations to get yourself involved in. So now I've set the stage, let's move forward and let's look at what is really booming in Japan right now. And like I said, if you're an XRP holder, this is big news for people like us. So Japan's FSA, which is the equivalent of the FCA in the United Kingdom, and I think it's the equivalent of the SEC in the United States. And what they're actually stating is they're wanting to allow banks to hold Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And I think this is really important because any part of the financial sector really needs to involve itself with a cryptocurrency where there's accountability, and there simply isn't any accountability with Bitcoin. There's no one at the top to bargain with, to barter deals with, to really work person to person. It's just not there with Bitcoin. So when I see this other crypto section, I really start to think about the financial magnet again, that is XRP. So Japan's Financial Services Agency is reportedly preparing to review regulations that could allow banks to acquire and hold cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin for investment purposes. And the move would mark a major policy shift as current supervisory guidelines revised in 2020, so this is quite old, effectively ban banks from holding crypto due to volatility risks, according to a Sunday report from Live Door News. Now, you're probably sitting there and you're thinking to yourselves, well, how does SBI Remit hold cryptocurrencies, specifically being XRP, and not just holding a small amount of it? And we'll get onto this later in the video. They are a substantial holder. The situation really is they can be gifted cryptocurrencies. Any bank out there can be gifted them, but they can't go out and purchase them. They can't add them to their portfolio. This new regulatory framework is going to absolutely change the face of what is crypto investment on a financial scale broadly across the whole of Japan. And this is all coming in on the back end of a new prime minister. And this new prime minister is actually aligning themselves. So what they're doing is they're meeting in the middle. The left and the right are no longer at each other's throats in Japan. Instead, they found a middle ground. They have found an area where they can find these common denominators so they can push their country forward. And I really do think, and I always said this, that the boom in XRP would begin in Japan just because it is broadly used as an over-the-counter payment. And what I mean by the over-the-counter payment terminology there is if you want to go buy a pack of Pokemon cards or a pack of chewing gum, a drink, whatever, you're likely going to have the option at every shop to pay in XRP, Litecoin, BNB, and probably some other options. But you'll always see a big sign for Ripple XRP. They absolutely love it out there. And it makes sense because, again, we saw such a big boom in Japan leading up to that huge move we saw from XRP. Now, there's some more things coming out of Japan, but The considerant here is really not just with them allowing the holding, right? The storing and retaining of crypto. It's more about dealing with crypto in general, buying it, selling it, getting their customers to invest in it, possibly pushing their own cryptos. As we know, Sony being part of Japan, really being deeply rooted out there. We know they've already bought a CEX, they've already pushed the idea and concept of their own cryptocurrency empire. So SBI Remit is definitely a different story, because instead of these big banks coming in, and trust me when I say this, there's a lot of big banks out there. These are just some of the major banks that are in Japan. A lot of these are going to come forward and they're going to say, well, we'll just build it ourselves. SBI Remit are backing winners. Okay, we're talking about a huge part of the financial infrastructure that makes up Japan, and they are one of the largest, and I have to repeat this, you guys, they are one of the largest XRP holders out there. Okay, so they've only been gifted XRP and donated XRP at this point. So what happens when these companies, right, that are already holding substantial amounts of cryptocurrencies behind the scenes anyway, what happens when they're given a green light to go ahead and start purchasing, start holding, start storing and dealing completely with cryptocurrency? Well, this tells me SBR Remit are probably going to increase their holdings of XRP tenfold. From my perspective, XRP is perpetually going upwards at this point, and you'd have to be absolutely insane to not at least hold 100 to 200 XRP coins, because if you can hold on, and this thing does continue to go perpetually up, and it does push past $10, which is a very, very low price prediction, in my opinion, it could be a game changer. It could be retirement money, as they say. This could get you completely out of crypto, no longer listening to content, and chilling somewhere on a beach, enjoying your best life with all of your family close by. So SBI Remit and their holdings, which is a Japan-based asset management company, holds $10.40 billion worth of XRP as part of its treasury. Now, this was written October 13th, 2025. So the likelihood is that data is pretty up to date. So if they increase this tenfold, right, you're talking about a significant investment in XRP. Now, Trident Digital, Weebus International, the Vovo Power, all of the banks that I just showed you, the likelihood is they're going to follow the path of SBI Remit. And this for you as an everyday average Joe holder that is part of that initial 5% that could invest in crypto is going to benefit from this move. So I really think the next wave, the next push, that next big movement we see in XRP price is definitely going to come on the tail end of all of these things kicking off in Japan. And if this does get the regulatory green light, you're going to see a big boom for any cryptocurrency asset that is heavily traded and already utilized in Japan. These are essentially people, right, that pushed most of the technology that you use and utilize to this very day. I remember being a very young kid and having a Sony Walkman, a Sony games console, all of these different things. And if we think, right, that Japan is not going to be at the forefront of cryptocurrency, then we are sadly mistaken. And they're taking even greater steps. And this new prime minister that's stepping into the boots of this older structure that existed from 2020, well, then you're going to see rules against insider trading being put forward in cryptocurrency. And I think this is an absolute must at this point, because what we don't want is a negative face on the front door that is cryptocurrency. When you look at these statistics, right, and you see how many people are actually invested in crypto, yeah, there's 95%, around 95% of the world population is not yet invested. If we can get rules and regulations in place to prevent these things from happening, well, we're going to create a better trading experience for absolutely everyone. Very positive on what is going on currently in Japan, especially with Ripple XRP, how hard they are pushing. This is something that every person inside and outside of crypto probably know about XRP, and the likelihood is the majority of people involved in crypto already invested in XRP. I'm going to be continuing to dollar cost average. I'm going to be paying attention to what's going on, especially with this new regulatory landscape. And I'm going to be waiting for that next big boom upwards. There's a perfect storm brewing, and I'm going to be doing a video specifically talking about this perfect storm that could be brewing and all of these different factors that come into play that could possibly lead to this next big breakout. But this CPI data that's coming through, and then another thing that's coming, make sure you subscribe, like all of those different things, keep yourself up to date, is this summit and how it could change crypto's trajectory if we have the perfect storm leading up to it. And yeah, this new regulatory landscape in Japan is part of that perfect storm. But let me know what you guys think about this. If you've been dollar cost averaging into XRP, what else have you been looking at? Are you excited about this new regulatory landscape? Do you think it's going to make a big difference to the price of XRP? Like I said, this thing is perpetually up from this point, and I think those areas of accumulation are going to get shorter and shorter and shorter until this thing takes off eventually, like Solana did, like Ethereum did. I missed Solana, I missed Ethereum, but I can be and say for certain that I did not miss XRP, and I'll continue dollar cost averaging in. But look, guys, if there's anything you want covered on the channel, you want looked at, just let me know. And aside that, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and I'll catch you in the next one.